All right. All right, I'm live. I was getting a little nervous there at first. Welcome to the NASCAR Live Chat with Hamm. You're tuned in live action. I had a little trouble with it going live. It just wanted to spin. I guess you call it buffering. And we all know how that ended up whenever I was at home trying to do that without the good Wi-Fi. I see y'all have a good conversation going on here. Brad and Tom and Tracy and Terry and Rachel and all my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, we're here to talk about the NASCAR Live, the NASCAR Las Vegas race that happened this weekend, the Federated Auto Parts 400. And if you don't know me, my name is David Hamm, 25-year NASCAR engine builder, recently retired. I guess it's been 3.5 months ago now. 7-year jackman, back from 95 to 2001. And before that, I was a dealership technician down in Charlotte and owner of Hammscapes landscaping business. And so that's about it. So anyway, we got the race happened yesterday, and it was a Las Vegas Federated Auto Parts 400. What did y'all think about the race? Give me some comments up here. Did you think it was a good race? It seemed it was interesting to me because the line of the traffic was moving with the sun. You know how they started the race with a little bit later in the evening because it was 103 degrees or so out there in Las Vegas. You know, it gets pretty hot, but every time I've been out there and it was hot, it was more like a drier heat, not as much humidity as you have down here. But yeah, after meeting Brad Kay at Indy and how nice him and his team was to me, my daughters, it's hard to not be for him. Yeah, I would agree with that. Brad's been one of my favorites ever since he came in and we started building engines for Brad. 5 or 6 years ago, I guess it has been. And he came in my room and introduced himself, and we talked a little bit. And I told him I was really excited to build engines for him. But I figured we were going to do good, but I didn't know we were going to do as good as we did. Win as many races with Penske and those guys and the championship with Logano. It's been going really good. So the finishing order from the Las Vegas race was Martin Truex won the race, of course. You saw that. The old Toyota won the race. Kevin Harvick was second, Brad Keselowski third, Chase Elliott fourth, Ryan Blaney fifth, Alex Bowman sixth, William Byron seventh, Kyle Larson and Joey Logano, and then Ryan Newman finishing out the top 10. So another good run for Ryan Newman. You know, he just hangs in there and gets those top 10 finishes, and before you know it, he makes the playoffs. So how about that? So this shirt right here, got this from Paul when Paul came up from Florida, Paul Rodriguez and Kit. So what do y'all think about that? It's for Ford Hall of Fame, Ford Hall of Fans. I'm so used to saying Hall of Fame. How about that? Yep. Thanks, Paul, for that shirt. One of these days, I'm gonna do some giveaways because I've got a lot of old shirts. I've got a lot of old those little Matchbox cars that are NASCAR and the Legends cars. That's something I need to start doing on my YouTube show. So the stage winners were Joey Logano won stage 1, Martin Truex won stage 2, and then of course Martin Truex was the final winner. We'll go over all that in the race rundown, lap by lap, which is so the Clint Boyer started from the pole, and then his teammate Daniel Suarez, Eric Almirola, and Kevin Harvick were second and third and fourth, which is a really good run for Stewart-Haas Racing. You know, maybe now that they're in the playoffs, they're going to turn up the wit and start running better. Tom says, I'll take all your RR number 28 stuff, David. Actually, I did have something to give you that I ended up not giving to you whenever you came down, and that was by accident because I forgot to give it to you. So, so lap number 5, Kyle Busch hit the wall. And we're going to talk about Kyle Busch here in a little bit in our cold beer, warm beer segment. And I know Mike Nieder, my buddy, call him Mr. Mike McDonald's around here. But anyway, he's listening in, and he said he was curious on my thoughts on Kyle Busch's comments. And I'm sure a lot of you probably are. So in lap number 12, Kyle pits, and on lap 14, he comes back out 39th and is now 2 laps down. So, yeah, he had a bad day. So I'm thinking he probably needs to get a warm beer after all. So on stage 1, Joey Logano wins the stage. and then followed by Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Dillon. So coming off pit road after they pitted after the stage, it was Kevin Harvick coming out, and then Joey Logano, Eric Almirola, William Byron, and Austin Dillon coming out the top. So one of the things I did want to mention, I didn't say this at first, was two things actually. One is we just passed my first anniversary of doing NASCAR Live Chat with Hamm, and that was on August 11th. Was my first anniversary doing this, and thanks everybody for sticking with me on it for all these times. I know some of you there for the very first one. I believe the first one was when I was sitting in my chair doing a live on YouTube 1 year ago. And the other thing I want to mention was about Mike Stefanik passing away. He was 61 years old. He was in a small single seat plane crash, but he was the winningest driver in NASCAR history, wheel and modified series tour. He had a 30-year career. But I remember him from back whenever we had I believe we called them the super trucks back in 1999, because we actually had a Coors Light truck that we were doing engines for, and they tried that. Now it's called the Craftsman Truck Series. Well, back then they just called it super trucks, but it was in 1999, and he ran in that series for a little bit, as well as Brad Keselowski's dad. I remember him running in also. All right, so lap 88, Eric Jones pits as his car is stuck in second gear. So he was having a bad day, for somebody to be to come off of just winning the race. Yes, and then lap 7. All right, lap 91. The top 7 are all playoff drivers. So lap 92, Eric Jones goes to the garage, hurting his playoff chances. And lap 106, Eric Jones comes back out on 16 laps down. If y'all want to tune in on Thursday night, we have our sports recap show right here in the WAME studio, and it comes on at 6:30 every Thursday night. And then every other week we do a NASCAR segment. My segment will be on probably around 7:20, and we'll talk about some NASCAR on the radio. And I'll kind of go over some of the stuff that we're going over here, but mostly answering questions from the guys here. So lap 135, Joey Logano is still leading with less than a second lead over Chase Elliott. Lap 137, Martin Truex is closing in on Chase Elliott for second place. Lap 146, Martin Truex is now racing Joey for the lead. 148, Kyle Busch is 28th and 2 laps down. And like I said, we'll talk about him a little bit later in the warm beer. So Brad is asking me, did you build? Ask me again, how many Daytona 500 winning engines did you build? I don't know. Oh, excuse me. Sometimes I didn't even want to know. So we won that race. Here's the deal. I think somebody asked me this a couple weeks ago, and I said I need to sit down and actually figure out how many races. I did figure that I would probably had close to, we would get a flag for poles and wins and that kind of stuff, and we used to keep a little flag on our window, and it was like a 1 inch by 2 inch flag, and we eventually, after doing that for probably about 7 years or so, we eventually just did away with that. But I figured out at some point I would have had probably 100 of those flags. So, all right. So Joey Logano on lap 152, he has lapped pole sitter Clint Boyer. Lap 158, Martin Truex takes the lead from Joey Logano with 2 laps to go in stage 2. All right. So stage 2, Martin Truex was the winner of stage 2, and he was followed by Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, and Chase Elliott. So exiting pit road and in order was Martin Truex, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, and Alex Bowman. So lap 168, Logano and Truex are fighting for the lead. 179, Truex drops from first to fifth. 181, William Byron spins but is able to stay out on the lead lap. 188, Kurt Busch has a tire go down and collides with the wall. And also, Kyle Busch has found his way back to the lead lap. So with 2 laps to go, and top 10 are all playoff drivers. And then Martin Truex wins. It's his 5th win of 2019. and locking him in as they head into the top 12 playoffs. So how about that? You know, Martin Truex won again, and so now he's locked into the playoffs, and we're getting down to the wire now, and these Fords need to step it up and get back up there. So they will be there will be another cut after the Charlotte Roval race, which I'm going to try to get to. And I need to talk with Beer Man. He's not here with me tonight. He had some business to attend to, but I'm also going to have a special guest next week. We're going to have Dick Seidenspinner, who was a team manager there for Kyle Petty whenever I first started over on that team. And so, he's been around NASCAR a long time. He's been down in Florida selling yachts, and now he's up here living in Cornelius. His dad owns a dealership over in somewhere around here locally, but I think he may have several actually. But he's getting into doing some of this stuff with some car shows and all these things. So it'll be interesting to have him on. He's quite a character, and you'll probably really enjoy listening to him. So, do y'all have any questions? How many rings? Let's see, how many Daytona 500 rings do you have? And you built engine 22 Ward Burton. Yeah, I also did. Well, we had so Ward Burton, and that was in 2002, and that was actually the first ring that I ever got working in NASCAR. So that was really nice at the time because I had been over at Sabco since the end of '94, and of course we didn't have any. We won the pole. We didn't ever win a Daytona 500. So whenever Ward Burton won that, that was really extra special. And then we just got all kinds of stuff from Bill Davis Racing. They were very nice, very generous to their employees. So that was cool. Now, and as far as how many I have, that's another thing I need to do. I need to figure out how many. I've got 12 rings total. So I'm not sure how many of those are Daytona 500. If I had to guess, I would say probably 6 or 7 are Daytona 500 rings, thereabout. Yeah, Tom, I believe that was the one that I did do. That's been 2006. One of these days, I'll make a list of all that stuff, and maybe I'll just write down, make a chart or something. I don't know. Yeah. So let's see, Martin. The point standings now. We have four Toyotas. We have 7 Fords in the top 16 in the points, and we have 5 Chevrolets. So the chances for Fords are looking really good. So Martin Truex is leading the points. Kevin Harvick second. Joe Logano third. Kyle Busch fourth. Brad Keselowski fifth. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, William Byron ninth. Ryan Blaney 10th. And Alex Bowman at 11th. Eric Almirola, Ryan Newman, Kurt Busch, Clint Boyer, and Eric Jones rounding out the top 16. So I would venture to say it's probably pretty good guess to who can be the first driver that's going to be eliminated out of the top 16 to drop down to 12. And I would say my guess would be the guy that's in 16th place. So I would say Eric Jones is probably going to be the first one out. All right. So September, we got a little bit of NASCAR news to go over right quick. So Christopher Bell, we talked about him before. He is going to the number 95 car for 2020 should be announced within the next 2 weeks. All right. So that's the Levine family racing car. And then also we heard about this earlier in the week. It was pretty exciting news for Ford. That Wood Brothers Racing is going to have Paul Menard will be retiring from his full-time team, and a replacement driver will be in the iconic number 21 will be Matt DiBenedetto Racing. And I heard that actually Paul Menard had suggested that Matt DiBenedetto go in that car, which is really cool. And I would agree with that as far as being a good driver of choice to put in that car. Because Matt seems to run really good. He seems to try. He tries really hard, and he wants to win races. I can't say the same for Menard. I mean, really, can any of us see anything that Menard's really done? Not really. So Clint's pole, Clint Boyer got the pole for this race, and that was his first pole since 2007. and that was the 351st pole for RYRE. Since 2004, it's 351 poles, and the 52nd pole for SHR. So I bet you add up all the wins that. So from the time I started it, we had the Robert Yates Racing. We had the Busch Series races that we were actually winning and doing really good with that. And then we had some other cars like the Ricky Craven, the 32 car over there. He was running decent. I think he actually won a race. And then, of course, we had the Robert Yates Racing, Robert Yates cars. But that's another thing I need to do is one of these days add up, because I was over at Bill Davis Racing and we won, Daytona 500. We also won a lot with Scott Wimmer, and we were building engines for Kenny Wallace. We were building Bruco. We were building their engines, and they were actually winning a lot of races. Jamie McMurray in the Busch Series back in the day, about 2002, 2003. Yeah, and then also Carl Wagner's, where I built engines for Joe Nemechek in the Busch Series, and Kenny Wallace. And they used to run really good. So one of these days, maybe I'll do that. So we'll go over the we'll go over some of the warm beer, cold beer right now. Actually, let's do cold beer first. I really didn't end up making a list for the cold beer, but I sort of off the top of my head thought, all right, these are the drivers that I could see actually. So I want to get your opinion on it too. Who do y'all think is their cold beer? Probably, let's state the obvious here, but Truex would be the first one, because he came back and won the race and run really good. But I'd also give one to Harvick and Keselowski, for running up there, basically all the top 10, and especially Ryan Newman, because there he is again finishing in the top 10. There was a point. Yep, Brad K for sure. Sure, Tom, I bet you'd like to sit down with Brad K and have you a cold Miller Lite. And I bet if you go to the race and you camp out in the infield, you'll get that chance. And we might just have to try to make that happen too. Because if we can go camp out together, then I can let Brad know that I'm over there. Maybe he'll make an exception and slide over there and have a beer with us. How cool would that be? All right, so the warm beer, I would definitely give a warm beer to Kyle Busch. All right, because I'm sure you all saw his post race interview, and I call him Kyle Busch. I'm actually thinking about making a T-shirt. If I do make it, I'll put it in the link below, the description below. So I'm thinking that I had an idea this morning and I wrote it out, but I just didn't get around to doing it. But so Kyle's post-race media session, he says, all right, so the question was asked, what happened there? It says what happened there with the 53? And he said 52, get it right, don't know. Because if anybody saw that, the 52 was out here on the track, and then here comes Kyle. All right, so Kyle's going this way. Here's Kyle right here. Here's the 52, and he just goes boom. Like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah, the 52's in your way, but you're a professional driver. You're a expert driver. Yeah, if he's up there going slow in front of you, go around him. So that's how that worked. And then the reporter says, "How did that impact your car?" And Kyle says, "Killed it." Were you happy you were able to come back after the early damage? Kyle's response, "Nope. I wish I had a hat to put on. I would actually rock and blue." He's like, "Nope." What happened at the end of the race? I'm just here so I don't get fined. How about the heat? Did it affect you did it affect anything? And Kyle says, felt great. So any thoughts of going to a place where you won last time at Richmond? Nope. Can't pass there. Gosh. Okay. Feel okay about your chances overall? Don't care. Did it help to have the bonus points coming into the race? I'm just here so I don't get fined. All right. You feel like you were able to get a top 10? So he turns around, put his hands up in frustration, and says, I'm answering the dumbest bleep questions over and over again, and just gets up, walks out. So I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I think if I give him a warm beer, I know he's competitive, but you know what? Get over it. Get over yourself. Grow up. We have disappointments in life every day. You're always going to have things given to you. You're not always going to get your way. That's life. Suck it up. Buttercup. That's a new word for him, buttercup. So what do y'all think about that? And I wonder if, yeah, that's a good comment there, Tom. Rachel says, I wonder if the Kyle versus Truex Jr. rivalry is heating up at Gibbs. That's a good point, and that's probably a very true statement there. I guarantee you that made him madder than anything that his teammate won and he didn't, because you got to look at it like, they're in comparative equipment. They're in the same cars, same engines, everything's the same, and his teammate beat him bad. So, yeah, Rachel says he acts like a kid. He has plenty of talent, but you sure wish he acted more like Petty or Dale Sr. Yeah, I would agree with that. He has definitely got the talent, but he just doesn't have the people skills, And we've seen drivers like that in the past that didn't have these people skills. I mean, remember, if you look back far enough, when Tony Stewart first started racing, they put him in the Busch Series back then. Joe Gibbs did, and they had him run like 3 years in the Busch Series, and then when he gets into the Cup, I don't know. He just had this really bad attitude, and then they try to get him some, attitude classes and things. And I think he finally started learning that through some learning about PR stuff, that you can't be like that. Same with Kurt Busch. There's another Busch brother. I was really surprised yesterday on his interview that he didn't blow up and say anything out of line. He was really just kind of calm. And I'm gonna tell you, the last time I talked to him after we won, let's see, I was trying to remember, after we won the Daytona 500, he came in and we got our rings and we took pictures and all that kind of stuff. He actually seemed like a different person to me than he was the first time we had him as a driver. And even his teammates back then would say that he was. I can't really say it on air, but he wasn't a very nice guy even to his team. So, but he was always nice to us, but you could just kind of tell. But now he seems like he's grown up a lot more and mature, so. All right. Let's see. We got somebody to get off of here. Yeah, so y'all just ignore people when people come on and make comments. It's stupid, immature kids probably. All right, so actually just report them and get them off of here, which I'm trying to do it. Oops. There we go. Goodbye. All right. So anyway, if y'all have any questions, go for it, because I'm ready. I'm wide open now. Throw it out. Is it cooling down where y'all are? Because it's actually cooled down, finally cooled down a little bit here. But the humidities today was bad, but it's supposed to be better the rest of the week. All right. So Paul says, I wish M&M would drop JGR so I can go back to eating M&Ms, the aftermarket ones. Just ain't the same. So yeah, whenever we used to have the M&M's car at Robert Yates Racing, we had Elliott Sadler driving. So yeah, we'd get some M&Ms, and actually went down in my last race, I'd say going and working, was in 2004. Whenever I believe Kurt Busch had the pole that year, and we won the championship that year, but they sent me down to Talladega to help out, and we had Elliott Sadler, we had the M&Ms, so I got to hang out with the Mars family a little bit. The ladies, Victoria, and I don't remember the other ones. Anyway, the Mars lady, the M&M, the Mars family, really nice people. But the deal with that was Robert Yates was going to be shutting down his team, his second car, because we had UPS and we had M&Ms, and then Robert Yates we merged with Jack Roush, and then Robert was going to shut down his team. So he helped M&M's find Joe Gibbs Racing. Basically, he helped kind of work out the deal. So I think that was really cool of Robert Yates to actually help make a deal with getting them a spot, getting them with a good team. And it worked out good for Joe Gibbs Racing, no doubt about that. And then but I think the kicker was losing the UPS ride, and but it all worked out in the end. It's been going good. Okay, David, can you tell us how it worked at RYE on who builds whose engines? Basically, what it is what you got is you go and you draw an engine. You got a piece of paper that has there's a list of engines. Right here is the way we do it. I want to make sure I get your question right, David. Can you tell us how it worked at RWE on who builds your engines? Can you tell us how it worked on who builds your engines? Okay, so I'll go over that. Whenever I first started there, I was building for the 99 car. When I first started in 2003, it was in August of 2003, and I started out in the Bush program, building for Scott Riggs and some other teams, when we were running really good. And then they moved me over to doing the plate engines, and that was in 2004. Whenever I went to the plate tracks, and when we merged with Roush that year, they ended up sliding me down to building. They moved the Bush Series stuff out, and they put me in building the Cup engines. And that was we had 2 rooms, and we had 5 or 6 builders at the time. And so I was building Cup engines, and they put me building with the 99 car, who was Jeff Burton at the time. And then when Jeff Burton left, Carl Edwards come in, and he was this guy that had just won I believe it was a truck race he had won, So it was kind of like, Carl Edwards come in. He was a new guy in racing, and I met him at the Christmas party that year at Roush's party in 2004, and he gave me his phone number and said, "Hey, let's go to lunch sometime." And we'll, so after he started running really good, and then I gave him a call and said, "Good job," and this and that. So then Doug Yates actually came up to me and said, "Hey, we need to help this 17 car." And Matt Kenseth was he was struggling that year. So he switched me over to building for the 17 car. And I believe we ended up second in the points that year. And then the next year, we got the Snickers car back with Ricky Rudd. And then we had the Dale Jarrett car. And so in the UPS. So we ended up putting me over to build the 88 and the 38 stuff. And it was me and Nick Ramey in the same room doing that. And then all the other guys were doing the Roush stuff. So eventually, though, we decided, you know what, we're just going to basically put all the engines in a pot. So we just took our list. We get a list of all the engines that need to be built. And then we would build them, and then they would go and dyno them, and then they kind of just pick them and put them into wherever whatever cars they thought the engine would run the best in. So, if a driver liked having more torque or more horsepower or whatever, then they would put that engine in that car. So there we go. All right. So is anybody? Let's see. Let's get these people out of here. What in the world's going on? All right. So does anybody else have any more questions? I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. All right. So thanks everybody for tuning in to NASCAR Live Chat with Hamm, and we will see you all next time. Make sure you make a comment on here after this video shut off, and click like if you like it, and we will see everybody next time. Have a good night.